Welcome to The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I didn't do that transition very well. Darn it. I tried to get the music transition to go in that right direction, but welcome everybody to Whole Health Weekly. Tonight is always about understanding the news of the week. And so a lot of times you'll see some cool articles that come through. You're not sure. Is it something holistically? Is it kerfuffle, and it doesn't really matter, those kind of things. So I want to always put is whatever's in the mainstream area, look at the topics of the week, and then see, is it something to pay attention to? Because a lot of times, sometimes there's some medical innovations that you'll see that are absolutely amazing. But a lot of times there's a lot of fluff out there. So tonight we'll go over that. I got a few pretty amazing articles. Very interested in seeing what social media has to say about a lot of things, because Gina, my office manager, always brings up the TikTok trends. And this week there was some interesting information on a certain topic that I don't like going into, because everybody's got their own discernment and those kind of things. But one of the things that was interesting was it was huge all over the thing that there was big players in our world, leaders, and they were very adamant about certain drug-ish kind of things that they were saying, hey, I want to, put my stance on that we're endangering America. What I would say to that is it's very fascinating how, certain corporation type situations control the world, in the sense of where the money goes. Sometimes that's what ends up happening, right? And so a lot of times, if these moves weren't made for just general, monetary value, I would say something different. But what I would say is, in this certain category of medicine, just let people sue if there's a side effect, like every other product in the world. Let people sue if there's a side effect. If you have a problem with that portion, then we have issues, right? Because every product in the world, other than this one I'm talking about, can get sued, right? You can get sued by the styrofoam coffee cup at McDonald's, okay, by not allowing this certain segment to get sued for things that happen that go bad. You kind of put yourself in the target zone. So if I was them, and I'm not them, I would probably, instead of whining about it, see what people are thinking. If you can't get sued, that's a pretty easy way to, hold off on a bunch of cash, right? But at the same time, it would make people feel a little more comfortable about things. So that was the TikTok topic of the week. Hopefully you're getting the reading between the lines that I was doing. But other than that, that's all I'm going to say about that subject. Holistic wise, you know what you got to do in the sense of understanding everything. There's so many things out there. I'll give you my father update. I don't know if I've told you he's feeling a lot better. But guess what? This holistic guy, my dad needed a medicine that's very, very good medicine that works really, really well to get him to that place. Do I want him on that forever? Of course not. But there's really good stuff in medicine too, guys. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater every time, right? And so he's feeling a lot better. He's almost there. He's got to get strong again, and God's awesome. So that's how that works. Okay. So, and thank you all for your prayers. That was amazing. So I appreciate it. He looks really, really good. I think he's been suffering for a year and a half, probably, or 2 years, maybe, and we just didn't know, he wasn't taking a certain medicine or whatever. So with that said, let's go into the next topic. So we always start with a chiropractic quote, and I found a cool one. If you're ever interested too, if you go back to the old ones, the first Whole Health Weekly, week 1 through week 33 is the chiropractic principles. And that's a really good one to kind of start in understanding what the chiropractic principles of life and health are. If you think of, there's a bunch of quotes that you can think of. Everything heals from the inside out, right? There's nothing on the outside in that will actually heal you. The body has to do the healing. Okay. And so with our body has this inborn intelligence, this innate intelligence within us. And that innate intelligence, if it's not interfered with, is incredible. It gives you what they call full of it's ease instead of dis-ease, right? So these are all chiropractic principles from 100 years ago in the 1920s, right? And so tonight is one from our famous BJ Palmer that I would like to quote out there for you. So this one is good. So, and it's very simple. Okay. So if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you always gotten. That one is pretty true, right? So if we keep doing what we've always done, we will get what we always have gotten. And that was a very good one. One of the cool parts of BJ Palmer was he would take these quotes and put them all over our campus. And so everywhere you'd walk in different areas, and you'd see like this random quote just popping up. It reminds me of Jimmy John's, kind of like, if you ever gone into a Jimmy John's, they have some really cool sayings all over the walls, and you don't really notice it until you're sitting waiting for a sandwich, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, that's hilarious. All these really cool quotes. BJ Palmer kind of was back in the 1930s, 40s, whatever. He was doing that on our campus. So that was always cool. So with that said, that was our quote of this week. Let's look at our trends this week on the old health. So we'll see what's popping up. If you guys have anything as well, put it in the comment. Oh, before we start, I want to make sure I put these out there. Here is our Rumble channel. Man, I am got 67 people, baby. 67. It's getting up there. I'm going for like 100. Or, if it ever goes viral, it'd be like 1,000, right? But I don't care about that stuff. And here is, so that is our Rumble channel I put in the comments. And then the next one will be it's called Substack. So Substack is the place where you can just put your email in, and then it allows me to just send out, it's like an email list, but anytime I put articles or anything like that, I can put it into the Substack to kind of share with you guys. So I'm really thinking about getting some of these articles I read and get them out in that Substack. So that one's a pretty cool list. That's the only time I'll actually do it if you're interested in this kind of this kind of conversation. So Substack's really good. It's free. All these things are free, right? So Rumble is a YouTube that doesn't get censored as much. So I really like it because it does good on the glossary side. We're also on YouTube. So we're YouTube at the present side. So I'll post that one. YouTube, that's kind of growing. It's one of these days. The problem with some of these is there's so many of people like me that are trying to do this because I'm too super addicted. So looking for growth, looking for all those things. In my world, I don't care about that. I want to make sure the content that I'm doing is amazing. And so if I have a small audience for my life, I don't care. And then the podcast is what I'm super proud of because I got like 3,000 people on that. But the podcast is on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, all those things. My hope is I keep saying it, but I want to get some good interviews because interviewing is one of my favorite things to do as well. But so there's all those. So if you're interested in any of those, make sure you grab those and become members, right? So, and that's where you can get a lot of good content if you like what we're talking about. So tonight, let's go into the health topics, and then we'll go into the sweet holistic articles at the very end, like we usually do. So, okay, so here's some trending stuff, and this is very interesting. Okay, which this makes sense. Government shutdowns impact on healthcare access. With the U.S. federal government shutdown dominating headlines, users are highlighting risks to 24 million Americans, health insurance premiums doubling, and 500 plus hospitals and clinics at risk of closure due to funding cuts. Posts from politicians and advocacy groups like More Perfect Us, U.S., somebody else, are amplifying fears of delayed treatment and Medicaid reductions. Healthcare crisis is a key buzzword. Shutdown health cuts are spiking with huge engagements. So depends on which side of the coin you're on. Most of these, we've been through a few of these guys. We've been through a few of them. I would say I'm sure there's a potential for all those things to happen. Let the dust settle. The big thing is like, I hope that my politicians understand, by doing this, I don't know if they understand, what they're looking like, that you literally, did a politician, they a day and a half. That's all they were. The average working week is a day and a half with all their different shutdowns and vacations and all that crap. You would think, and I would suggest, this is a suggestion, maybe they don't get paid. They don't get access to all those things. I think things would change. I really think, standing on this little pulpit of whatever their situation is would go away a little bit more, right? So, like if people are trying to make things better, then maybe that would be the thing. If we shut down the government, maybe the politicians don't get their paychecks first. That'd be kind of a good idea. So I think people would come to the table a little quicker, and then it wouldn't be that big a thing trending all over the place. So that's the thing. I try to not get too political on anything, but this one's a good one. This is a trending topic. Magnesium deficiency and magnesium deficiency and cancer risk. Okay. Clips from there's an expert named Dr. Rhonda Patrick is going viral, warning that low magnesium intake, which is affecting like 50% of U.S. adults, raised the pancreatic cancer risk by 24% per 100 milligram shortfall, the overall mortality by 50%. Recommendations for bioavailable forms like malate, glycinate are shared widely. Athlete-specific needs is 10 to 20% more magnesium than the actual therapeutic dose. Let me look that up too. And supplement tips are resonating in fitness communities. So you guys understand magnesium's role, because if you've been with me for a while, there's three key vitamins, I would say, that you really want to make sure you understand. So vitamin D is probably the number one because that one helps your immune system function correctly. Remember, it's the one that basically is the alarm system to your house. If your vitamin D level is good, that means your alarm system's set properly. So if a burglar came in, the alarm system would go off. If your vitamin D is low, the burglar is allowed to come in your house, steal the stuff, go away, and then the alarm goes off. Okay. So if you got this vitamin D, it's not the only thing vitamin D does. And understand that vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone essentially. So, long story on that part, but essentially think of it that way. So, it's super important to understand your vitamin D level. Vitamin K2 is another key piece. So, you want to make sure K2 is up there, and magnesium. Magnesium is a very vital one. And what happens is we take a ton of calcium. So we almost take too much calcium in our world and not enough magnesium. The other problem with magnesium is a lot of medications, which a lot of people are on several medications. Medications have a tendency to knock your magnesium level off. So what they're saying, let me look up normal magnesium level because I don't know that offhand. All right. Okay. Sorry, guys. All right. Okay. So your normal blood level of magnesium is 1.7 to 2.2 milligrams. So that would be on the blood test. How? Then, so typically, so they're saying in women, it should be, so if you're 31 years or older, about 320 milligrams. Women 19 to 30 is 310 milligrams. Men 19 to 30, 400 milligrams. 31 and older for 420 milligrams. These are pretty important numbers as far as magnesium goes. And these are like the reason those are important, like 400, 420, because you can have too much magnesium. Okay, so there's a level that you don't want to get over all the time. You want to take magnesium at the right dosage, right? So you want to take like 300 milligrams, whatever. Now, the cool part of magnesium, they're finding some fascinating stuff. So it's definitely a nerve helper, right? So it helps with like brain function, nerve function, all kinds of stuff. They're actually finding huge results with magnesium. It's called magnesium threonate, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So magnesium comes in many forms. And a lot of times it's very easy. Magnesium citrate is a good one, right? It's cheap, gets it in there good. The problem with it causes some diarrhea, right? And so one of the things I learned lately is if you're taking, let's say, magnesium citrate, you'd want to take let's say you have diarrhea. So that means you probably you're taking too much. So you cut it back until you don't have diarrhea. Okay. And magnesium citrate is one of the only ones that does that to people. There's magnesium glycinate. There's magnesium. I can't think of all the different nates, but there's several different forms, and you want to try different ones for yourself. This one that I just said, magnesium threonate, is one that they're finding that's really good for headaches. And so some people are having really good luck with, improving their headache situation with magnesium threonate. Oh, I forgot about that. Tonight there was an exciting one. Shoot. There's a really good one. Okay, so I'm hoping to find it. I hope I find it on my Facebook thing. So there was a cool study that came out today for chiropractic, but I almost forgot. Dang it. I am sorry about that. All right, hang on. I'll make sure I pull it up. All right. There it is. Okay. So we'll keep going. But the idea is remember, magnesium is pretty important. And if it's hitting number 2 in the trending, then there's a lot of conversation about it. So make sure vitamin D, K2, magnesium, make sure those numbers are pretty good, and you'll actually neurologically and a lot of things start feeling pretty good. Magnesium cream, fantastic for neuropathy. We have that at the office. People love it. Magnesium has some good pain relieving aspects too, if we get the right amount in our body. Okay, so there's that. And you can see, like it says, there's an actual cancer connection. So why not keep your magnesium up there? Okay. This one's kind of cool. Dr. Eric Berg, if you really want some little quick hitters that I love, Dr. Eric Berg is BERG. He's a chiropractor, and he does some really, really good deep dives, but about like 8-minute clips and stuff. So why he's trending, because we talked about inflammation root causes and anti-inflammatory diets. So he had 13 common triggers: poor diet, stress, for inflammation. The number one reason for global drug sales is exploding because of these inflammation issues. Okay. So what he was going over was the number one drugs that we use in society. I love this take on this. The number one is for anti-inflammatory. Why? Because everything in our life is inflammatory. Okay, so now we say that, but we're going to be holistic. So we're going to understand what that means. Why is our inflammation going out of control? Okay, so let's go into the chiropractic thought process. The innate intelligence of the body understands how all of these function, right? Why on earth would your innate intelligence of your body cause inflammation that's not supposed to be there? Good question. It should be perfect, right? Innate intelligence should be, the inflammation process should be perfect. We shouldn't have all these cells of inflammation. When we say that, inflammation is a bunch of cells trying to do healing throughout the body. So it's your immune system, essentially. Excuse me. I'm talking to these robotic kids, man. I had to start losing my voice. So is it essentially, you get these inflammation markers and these cells going and trying to heal the body, right? That's what inflammation is. It's inflaming an area, is bringing blood with cells that heal into a certain area. You hurt your ankle, the inflammation swells. Why does it do that? Because it opens the blood vessels. It allows the blood vessels to go to that area with cells that'll start repairing the area. Inflammation is that. So if we have these chronic inflammation, what does that mean? That means these cells are constantly busy trying to repair areas. Because of why? Because there's some type of toxin, some type of thought, or some kind of trauma causing these inflammation cells to lose it and have to constantly be working. What you want is the electrician at a giant factory. What do you want from the electrician at a giant factory? You want the electrician to be the best electrician you have that sits on his butt. Why? Because if he is working, that means your factory has issues and you're not making the money that the factory is going. That means something's broken down and you have to fix it. The inflammation is the same way. I want my inflammatory cells to not be working at all. I want them sitting, relaxing, soaking in the sun, not understand, getting totally relaxed and chill, not doing a thing. But I want them to be the best when I need them for my sprained ankle, right? At this point, we over energy ourselves, because all of these, when they say chronic inflammation, you have all this inflammation that's constantly working. So it's like the electrician that's constantly fixing a broken factory machine. If every time the electrician goes into that factory and he is working 12 hours, that's 12 hours of production you don't get. Okay. And so that hopefully will understand why when somebody has these inflammatory things, we have to start breaking it down into different process. We have to say, okay, why is my body inflaming? Right? We have to change things. Like our first quote was, right? If we do the same thing over and over again and it's crazy to think you're going to get a different result. Well, one of the things that happens is if you hear chronic inflammation, it's on you now. You have to do some things to get that inflammation down. What is that? Could it be a chiropractic adjustment? Could it be more water intake? Could it get rid of the thing that drives me crazy in the fake sugars? Fake sugars drives me nuts. There's so much fake sugar and no one brings it up. I wish mine would trend. The amount of crap sugar that would be. We don't have real sugar, guys. It's all fake. And it's wild how much it makes a difference. Like, it's crazy. Everybody talks about gluten, everybody talks about dairy, but those two are the sugar is the one that no one wants to talk about for whatever reason. I don't know why that is, but that's a true story. Okay. So with that said, understand how inflammation works. Then when you hear, oh, I'm chronic inflammation, what is fibromyalgia? Chronic inflammation. What is IBS? Chronic inflammation. All of these things are chronically inflamed conditions. So if you can grasp that, then all of a sudden you get to empower yourself, saying, okay, I got to figure out why my inflammation cells are losing their mind. There's got to be a reason. So let's go looking. Let's go explore it. Maybe that's something you do with a chiropractor. Maybe it's just anything, blood work, right? We want to make sure we understand it. I don't want you to be stuck in these conditions that you think that they're non-reversible, right? There's so many different pathways we can take on this. So every time on Wednesday night I get into this like soapbox thing, I apologize. Yeah, hopefully you like it, but okay. Oh, here's another. This is a good one to get. This is another Dr. Berg post. So remember, Dr. Berg, he's on YouTube, is where his big one is. This one is high iron. Okay, so excess iron's role in accelerated aging. One of Dr. Eric Berg's posts links high iron to brain, heart, and liver damage and inflammation, sparking debates on blood donation, antioxidant-rich diets, and users are trying it for a longevity hack. Okay, so a lot of times, iron's a tough one. That's another one that I would really suggest understanding your level, because I've seen low iron too, but the biggest thing with high iron, it's weirdly not, I don't think it's as common as, like the trends go out there, but a lot of people take it, and you actually feel much, much better. Now, one of the reasons people take that is because here's a crazy thing. If your gut microbiome is off, Candida, it's a bad bacteria, is one of the ones that has an opportunity to take over your gut. Okay, so we've heard these before. Candida infection, those kind of things in your gut, and those people are suffering pretty hard. One of the things that happens, though, is Candida is known to eat iron. So it's known to eat this iron as it's going. So then these people that have a Candida problem have constant low iron. But medically, we just say, oh man, you're low in iron, because we didn't understand the why, right? We just went into it. So we didn't understand that the reason the iron's low is because this Candida's there. We start just feeding more and more iron. Well, if you're going to feed Candida more, isn't that going to be a problem eventually? Yes. The answer is yes, just to let you all know. So that's where that low iron level can really, really, be a thing as well. So high iron too much iron in the blood. And that's why the innate intelligence of the body is so beautiful, because if we, give it exactly what it needs, it's going to produce really good things, but it causes liver, kidney, and heart problems. So remember that one. Just watch your iron level as well. Not a lot. All right. I'm trying to think of any others before we go into the. All right. What is that? Okay, we don't know any of that. That's not. Well, that is true. Okay, so this one is a very troubling one for me, because it's very, very true. There is a huge surge in teenagers being on antidepressants. We kind of know. I mean, everybody in teenage land understands this. One of and we see it on a daily. It's almost like a normal process now to have kids on these antidepressants. It's very troubling, and partly is it's on us as adults that we aren't doing the proper things, right, in that sense. Getting these kids introduced to other ways to cope and adapt, but they're also dealing with something us adults never had to do, and that's social media. Okay, so social media is very tough. I think if I was a teenager at that time and you see, this person looking good, or, one of my favorite guys to listen to years ago was Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, I loved his ability to discern, the topics of the time. And one of the ones that I never will forget him saying was like right when Facebook came out, because all of us, I'm old enough to remember when Facebook wasn't even a thing, right? and when it came out, I remember him having a conversation. He said, "What's going to happen, unfortunately, is that people are going to see a highlight reel of people's lives. They're gonna take pieces of their life that are really, really good and put that on. Now that's not bad in itself, but what happens is people will start seeing, going, well, my life's not like that. My life's not like that. That's crazy. Their life is so nice and so great. Even though everybody has those trials, tribulations, all those kind of things happen, in this same process, right? So you're not seeing the whole thing. You're not seeing the whole life, right? You're just seeing the highlights. And so what happens is it causes this massive depression. That person must be amazing. Nothing they ever post is off. That's why it's kind of funny when Rachel gets on and does a little post. Like tonight, she did a post. Okay, let's be square. We were doing so many other little yard things this year that we really basically didn't do much with our garden. Now, the garden also was so plentiful last year that we have a ton of cans. We have like a ton of, oh my gosh, relishes, salsa. We did really, really well last year. So our motivation factor on this year's garden was not as big as it used to be. So we're like, you know what? It'll produce. And we wanted to redo our garden. We want to make a bigger, kind of like bigger, where it's like, for some reason, when we have enough land to make it like really nice and spacious, like in between the rows and everything else. But for some reason in my brain, I keep jamming it into this one little area, and then it gets hard, everything starts growing and you can't really plant, it's just a tight area. And then Rachel this year, I didn't notice it, this whole time, but there's a giant tree that was taking up all the sun. So like at certain times in the day, this big old tree I'm like, well, that's why that part's not growing. So, we sucked. It was terrible. If you you wouldn't even grade. I think you would send us back to school to redo it. if we had to grade our garden this year. But what's crazy is the amount of stuff she pulled out of that today. We're like, all right, she's like, all right, we got to check it because it's getting a little cooler. And so we might have some frost. And so she gets out there. Oh my God, crate of tomatoes, 2 crates of tomatoes, like a couple bushels of that. She had some peppers, all kinds of good stuff. So you don't have to be really perfect at it, but it was hilarious. Her post, though, was about how terrible we were, right? Because that's what people want, right? But these poor kids think they have to be perfect and they have to be like, all those things. And so that antidepressant thing can be a thing when constantly they're getting hit with these perfect people all the time. So remember that. Make sure that, we're engaging with our kids, showing them other things. Like chiropractic is so cool because sometimes you can show a kid they don't have to lean on a drug to feel better, right? That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And so, introduce them to acupuncture, massage, chiropractic, all these cool alternative holistic ways. They'll feel so much better. They may not lean on these drugs to try to feel better, if that makes sense. Okay. So that one's a pretty good trend. Now, the rest of them are kind of normal. The AI and tech, we've gone over that one before. So I'm going to go into our cool articles from Dr. Mercola's site. He writes some amazing stuff, get some great articles in there. And I liked a bunch of these ones this week. So are you ready for this bad boy? All right. So this one's interesting. Irregular sleep. This is by Dr. Mercola. If you don't know, Dr. Mercola has an amazing website. I push him all the time. Constant information on there on holistic topics. He's a medical doctor, but he is really, there's a ton of articles. There's just some things I don't agree with sometimes with him, but a lot of stuff he'll go diving in, and his knowledge base is really, really good. So so this is the title of the article. Irregular sleep patterns increase your risk of 172 diseases. Poor sleep traits were tied to 172 different diseases, including Parkinson's, diabetes, liver fibrosis, with many showing doubled or tripled risk. Keeping a constant sleep rhythm mattered more for disease prevention than simply getting a set number of hours. Chronic inflammation, oh, look at that, was identified as a key pathway connecting disrupted sleep to widespread health problems. Simple lifestyle changes such as earlier bedtimes, reduced evening light, which is something Rachel and I have been doing, and no late night meals significantly improve sleep quality. Eliminating electromagnetic clutter in your bedroom helps your nervous system fully relax and allowing for deeper, more restorative rest. Okay. This one's pretty packed with really good stuff. So one of the reasons I love the herbalism thing, the registered herbals, because there are a lot of options for helping people get to that sleeping pattern. And it just depends on what the person's going through. So sometimes my patients, I will talk about different ones. There are several different ones we have at the office for sleep because we understand healing is in the sleeping time. That is when you gain so much sleep or so much healing is in really good rest and sleeping. Okay. In fact, one herbalist that I was taking a course from, he's a professor out west. And one of the ones that I thought was fascinating was he would actually do a sleep detox. This is pretty cool. So it's hard to do in theory, but was that you actually laid in your bed for a full day and fell asleep when you fell asleep and just kept waking up when you wanted to wake up, and you couldn't get out of bed. So you couldn't get out of bed. You could read, you could do that, but you allowed yourself to go to sleep on a regular. Okay. Why would you do that? It seems like that doesn't make any sense. There is a way to to actually, everybody says you can't make up sleep. I don't believe that. I believe that your body, if it's asking for it, go for it. Get that sleep done, right? And so I think we're sleep deprived, and somebody taught us that you sleep, it doesn't matter that much, because once you've missed it. I don't believe that. I believe you can gain it, and you can kind of re-energize your body by giving yourself that proper sleep. But you can see 172 diseases make sense to figure that part out. Here's what it's the same thing as chiropractic and health, right? What are the 3 things that can cause us issues? Your brain going crazy. So thoughts, you can't shut it down, right? There's a herbal for that. Sometimes chamomile, one that I like. I talk to people about, if their brain, passion flower tea is phenomenal for that kind of thing. Toxins. Let's say there's a bunch of sugars in you and the inflammation process is going nuts. And that's why you get jittery and those type of things. So that's another reason why, like, waking up or, having a bad sleep pattern could be there, right? So that's where the toxins could be there. And let's say traumatic. Let's say you got a shoulder problem that is trying to heal over that night and it inflames on you. So those are 3 different ways that, like, sleeping, but there's different herbals for each one, right? So there's one for pain. So let's say it's the trauma in your shoulder. So white willow bark would be, let's say, something you could grab that's very nice, doesn't tear up your kidneys and do all those kind of things. You have for toxicity, turmeric, getting that inflammation out of there, trying to regulate, or one of those things called what? An adaptogen. An adaptogen is this herb that kind of balances all systems throughout your body. So that could be a good one. Like adaptogen you'd think of is like ashwagandha, right? Or the thought pattern, like what we talked about, like passion flower, kava. Kava is a really good one. One we highlighted this Sunday, holy basil, is another really good one. Doesn't put you to sleep, but it kind of helps that balance. Okay. So sleep is super important. 172 diseases. You probably want to fix your sleep pattern. Okay. And don't feel bad about it. Sometimes there's what is it called? Peer pressure to have like 4 hours of sleep. Okay. There's no real reason that you have to do that to yourself. Okay. This one was kind of interesting that we can talk about. I like it, but I also see a difference. Okay. So this is Dr. Mercola again. So popping knees are a sign of early arthritis, according to a new study. Have you heard your knees suddenly pop or crack without warning? It's not usually something to be alarmed about, unless you experience other symptoms too. Knee popping, also called crepitus, is common and not always linked to arthritis. So hearing sounds alone does not mean your joints are deteriorating. A 5-year study of young adults recovering from an ACL surgery found that noisy knees were associated with cartilage stress, but did not predict long-term decline in function or pain. Exercise is one of the most effective ways to protect noisy knees, and strengthening the quads, hamstrings, and glutes and calves helps stabilize the joint and reduce the strain. Lifestyle strategies like stretching, weight management, modified high-impact movements are often more effective than surgery, which is rarely needed for crepitus. So popping knees, you don't need surgery, right? Collagen from high-quality supplements and bone health, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, offering an extra layer of protection for long-term knee health. Okay, so that one's fair, but there's way more to that. That's why I picked that one. Okay, this is where me and Dr. Mercola will disagree. Popping knees almost mean nothing in that sense. So like they're saying, it doesn't mean you have arthritis or anything. But what it could predict is misalignment or your joints not working properly. Okay. Now, in a kid, a lot of times you're going to have those with popping knees have various ranges, right? And especially if they don't hurt necessarily, you're having those bones of the joints adjust your body, and with that adjusting comes this popping noise. Hopefully, I've ever told you like what that is. So knee one is a little different because it doesn't mean it's not like the spinal. So there's in every spinal joint, there is several layers to make sure that you never become bone on bone. There's cartilage. So you have bone, right, on a joint. You have cartilage, and then you have water essentially. So a fluid, right? Fluid, and then air. So you have 3 layers before you actually even touch bone, right? Because a lot of people think you hear bone on bone all the time. And one of the problems with bone on bone is you couldn't bend anything, because bone on bone, if they touched, they would literally fuse together. Okay. So when you hear bone on bone, that means you probably have some cartilage left if you can move the joint, or you have some water and cartilage left, but it's shorter and then there's not as much stuff. Crepitus a lot of times is just that air pocket essentially going out of that area, just releasing. What'll happen later is if you have a good solid joint, you'll build that air back up, over time. With crepitus, though, it could be a sign that things aren't lined up. Remember, we have 20 something, I can't ever remember, 20 something bones in our feet. Each one fits almost perfectly together. I always think of like a Lego wall. If you're building you're building the Lego house with your kids, and those little bones kind of fit together. So they all fit together like that, but they have a little bit of give, right? If one of those bones is off kilter, that's going to make your leg bones not be perfect, right? And so if they're not perfect, then the knee alignment up top, because if you put your kind of knuckles together, your 2 fists like on top of each other where you got the knuckles, they're supposed to line up exactly like one knuckle inside the other. If something throws you off, like a bad walking pattern, let's say you sprained, here's a good example. Let's say you sprained your ankle years ago, and you learn to walk with this different gait, different walking pattern because the ankle was so bad. So as you learn this new walking pattern, it's going to translate. It's going to go up your body, up to the knee joint. The knee joint then will start torquing to try to make up the movement of your foot, if that makes sense. That's why, one reason why, why wouldn't both knees degenerate exactly at the same time? Let's say somebody has knee arthritis. Why aren't they look exactly the same? Why? Because mechanically, that's why that is caused, right? It's not because of genetics. Because if it was just genetics, both knees would they'd be, oh man, both their knees at the same time, same age, bone on bone. Why does your shoulder get that same thing, right? And not your other shoulder? Like this one doctor said, man, that arthur in my right shoulder. And then this doctor looks at this patient and goes, well, how old's your left one? That old arthur, that old age in the right shoulder, but nothing. Your left shoulder didn't come with you, right? It's mechanics, right? And so sometimes that crepitus, I think it's more related to the actual mechanics of how things are working. And that's why I love chiropractic so much. Feet, knees, making sure all of that proper alignment and the proper motion is happening in those joints is what can change your world. Absolutely change your world. So if you know somebody with popping, have them try that chiropractic stuff just to see what the alignment is. And then we can go from there. Okay. So there's that one. All right. Let's go to, I saw another one. Ooh, this one I really like. Okay. This one's super interesting. This was off a Joe Rogan podcast, actually. But this conversation is European bread healthier than American bread? This is done by Dr. Joe Mercola. And I'm going to tell you the answer is yes. Okay. Bread differs significantly between the US and Europe due to wheat type, fermentation time, and chemical use. which shape not only taste and texture, but also how your body digests it. American bread often uses hard wheat with high gluten, shorter fermentation time, and chemical additives. This leads to denser loaves that strain digestion and trigger discomfort in sensitive individuals. Traditional European style breads typically ferment for 12 to 48 hours, allowing microbes to break down the gluten and the sugars while enhancing mineral absorption, flavor, and digestibility without chemical shortcuts. Glyphosate residues, which is nasty stuff, are more common in U.S. wheat, where the herbicide is sprayed before harvest, disrupting gut microbes and increasing health risks. Choosing or making bread with simple ingredients like real sourdough lets you enjoy loaves that support digestion and provide nourishment and carry forward traditions of food craftsmanship. So one of the things that essentially happens with bread, listen to you. Matad is back. Hi, babe. Matad Paulette's back. Before I start talking about gluten, I love this one. Matad, I know I miss our conversations. We got to get on it because it's going to be good. I love it. I love it. So with gluten, it's a big deal because a lot of times we kept saying, oh, gluten insensitive. There must be something wrong with my body because our body's not strong enough. There's got to be something wrong. It must be me, right? It's the innate intelligence of the body, just weak. It's not very good. So that's why I became gluten insensitive. Well, guess what, folks? Gluten, we've been duped a little bit. There's 24, 25. Todd Paulette will find this interesting. 25 ingredients in certain cereals. Okay. So 25 ingredients in certain cereals. 5 of those ingredients are allowed in other countries. 20 of them are banned, are literally banned. Like what we talked about the other day. We thought red dye 40 was gone, but they changed the name of it and just moved it and kept the chemical crap in there. Okay. The bread is no different. We have to figure out a better way. And if Europe can figure it out and not so what's happening is because, like fermentation, you need these microbes to take off. That's why sourdough bread tastes so good when you hand make it. That's why people love eating it, is because that the gluten in there is broke down enough, or enough of it's broke down that you're not going to have a reaction to it. Our breads now are almost the same as like when I yell at fake sugar all the time. We have essentially fake bread. We push the process along. We don't allow it to ferment. Those pieces don't allow the chemical breakdown of a delicious homemade bread, right? And then, now that our gut bacteria is so messed up, it just keeps rolling because now gluten comes in. So I'll walk you through that part. So in our gut microbiome, one of the things that happens is we have super sensitivity to gluten and dairy a lot of times. Why? Because the gluten and the lactose bacteria in your stomach dies first. So what happens a lot of times is when you digest those things, your body goes, oh crap, I don't know what that is. It's a foreign invader causing that inflammation to go up. Okay. So think of it like that. It's probably not the scientific validation of all that stuff, but that's kind of how it goes. With gluten of our bread, we have so much in the bread. We have so much gluten and chemicals and all those things that the gut bacteria freak out because it doesn't look like bread and it can't break down all that gluten. So it gets overwhelmed, causing inflammation to happen. That's why. And this was funny because it was on Joe Rogan. It was fantastic. He was like, man, every time you go over to Europe, you feel amazing when you eat bread. We got to make bread eating great again, because that would be fantastic. So I just love that article because it kind of shows you, this was on Joe Rogan. He was like, man, if I eat American bread, I feel like crap like the rest of the day. Feel dejected, like all those things. But he'd go over to Europe and he's like, man, I could eat bread all day and not have anything. Here's the big thing that I'm going to tell you. We're going to protect our gut microbiome ourselves. We're going to protect our gut as best we can. So if we're stuck with until they actually fix this problem, which I think people are awaking to, hey, we want really actually organic stuff, not fake organic stuff. So I think if we put enough pressure on people to actually do the right stuff, we can start seeing that change. The one that's going to be tough is the herbicides. I'm telling you, that's going to be rough. Without somebody like just banning it or, those kind of processes. Glyphosate in America is rough. And that's where we're going to have food problems because we've allowed those kind of things. A lot of countries are going to have a hard time taking our stuff if it has a bunch of glyphosate in it. Glyphosate is literally one of the poisons that are all in these herbicides that shouldn't be allowed, but they're allowed. So it is what it is at this point. But how do you protect yourself? You make your gut microbiome so good that your body can take that on and get rid of it, break it down, right? That's the thing. We can't worry too much. We can't be like, can't live, right? You got to be able to live a little bit. But the biggest thing is understanding what you have to do to make your body have that innate intelligence, right? So that's a big one. Okay. All right. I'll do one more article. Oh, no. I'm going to end it tonight with one more because I'm hitting that 1 hour. I like hopefully not wasting your time. This one was so cool. So came across my feed. They must have known Whole Health Weekly's there. And they needed to get in front of me because of my vast audience, my international audience with Matan Paulette. So this is the one article that we saw today. And this is my chiropractic one. All right. So new research supports spinal adjustments as a superior choice for health and headaches. Here it goes. How quickly can chiropractic care help with cervicogenic headaches? A single headache can ruin an afternoon, but when headaches strike every week or a month, they can be exhausting and interfere with our lives. Many types of headaches exist, and they may occur for different reasons. However, most have little warning before onset, and we certainly cannot schedule these headaches into our calendar. So how can we reclaim our life? And then this goes in, I'll have it next week. Cervicogenic headaches have proven super effective with chiropractic. So a lot of times if you get those type of headaches, try chiropractic because the goat rodeo of medicines that people have to try, I've seen up to 14. I literally have seen up to 14 to try to combat a headache, and I don't know how you'd actually function with that. Without the massive amount of side effects, all those things. And I mean, 14 blew my mind. You're talking a 20-something-year-old. We started doing chiropractic. It was 2 weeks, essentially 2 weeks, and a lot of crying not because of pain, but because she couldn't believe she could get that much relief and not have to take 14 medications in her 20s. So that one always is good. So remember, people that have headaches, chiropractic is a fantastic way to really help alleviate, balance the body, the nervous system and everything else. And it can really, really take off. So that's my little chiropractic ad. Make sure you're getting your spine adjusted properly. It doesn't have to be your neck either. Sometimes headaches come from different areas. So remember that. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you tonight. Don't forget to subscribe to the Rumble channel, YouTube, at any time. And put comments up. If you guys ever want us to talk about a conversation, let me know. With that said, was great talking to you guys tonight, and enjoy the rest of your week. It's going to be a good one. So have a good one.